Well, hello and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I'm so glad you joined me again today for another great episode. And listen, I really want y'all to pay attention to this program that we're having today. We're going to be speaking to an amazing attorney, and I want you to invite everyone that you know to join in or share this podcast to everybody you know, because this information needs to get out to help women. So before I introduce our awesome guest today, I want to welcome my awesome, wonderful co-host, Mary Browning.
Thank you, Molly. It's good to be on the program today. As we sometimes do, we want to give a trigger warning today. There may be some content that could cause you to have an emotional reaction, and we just consider that an invitation to another level of healing. We would invite you to call the H3 helpline at 866-721-7881 and find some healing resources near you.
Thank you, Mary. Well, Mary, we've discussed this before, and I've had this on my heart for such a long time. But the ability for women to be able to sue the abortionist and even the abortion clinic if she suffered some kind of physical and I believe even emotional and psychological harm from abortion. And that's not a very common thing around the country. There's just not many women that I know of that have had the ability to do so. But today we have a special guest on who God has put that on his heart to do, to represent women injured by abortion. And so I'm really excited to talk to him. His name is Michael Seibel. He is a private malpractice attorney who has dedicated his career to serving the pro-life community. He's the co-founder of Abortion on Trial, the Southwest's leading pro-life enforcement and compliance organization. And over the years, he's worked with national and regional groups to shut down late-term training programs, dismantle fetal tissue networks, and hold abortion providers accountable for negligence and abuse. Michael has worked extensively with the Select Panel on Infant Lives, helping secure 2 criminal referrals against the University of New Mexico and late-term abortionist Curtis Boyd. Mr. Seibel's work has been widely recognized with coverage in the Albuquerque Journal, the Associated Press, the National Review, Live Action, Life News, the American Family Journal, and the Daily Caller. His tireless commitment to pursuing justice has made him a trusted advocate for women and families harmed by abortion and a respected leader in the pro-life legal enforcement. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you for joining us today, Mike.
Happy to be here. I always have a great respect for the Justice Foundation and all that they do. So happy to talk to both of you today.
Well, thank you. Well, we represent, thousands of women who've been hurt by legal abortion through our written declarations. But to have an attorney on who actually represents women who've been injured by abortion is a blessing. And so let's start off, Michael. Now you have a ministry or a project called abortioninjury.com. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this actually spun off from Abortion on Trial about a year ago. What we're doing is we're expanding just from the Southwest. My co-counsel and I have been active in Albuquerque and in Dallas, Texas, but we're moving that all across the country. So we've developed this abortioninjury.com, which we have many different type of lawsuits that we file all across the country. Organizations such as Pro-Life Wisconsin, Cincinnati Right to Life, and then new organizations in Montana have been advertising on billboards outside of abortion clinics all throughout the country.
That is amazing. And we have a picture of that, and I hope to put it on here pretty soon. But tell us a little bit about the purpose of the billboard.
Well, the purpose of the billboard, women are really reluctant to get involved with the injuries. So it's twofold in this billboard campaign. Number one is to get women in to sue the abortionists. The abortion industry is unbelievably unregulated and dangerous to women all throughout this country. And nobody does anything about it except, occasionally there's an attorney general or somebody else who sues, but it really doesn't get redress for the women who are harmed by abortion in this situation. The other one is many of our billboards are designed to get the dangers of the abortion pill out to the general public. So we have specific advertising that says, have you become infertile because of abortion? Has a boyfriend put an abortion pill in the drink? Has Have we seen any bleeding or even severe psychological damage where they've been hospitalized through suicidal ideation? And also ectopic pregnancies. If the ectopic pregnancies ruptured, although it's not really caused by the abortion pill, it's more caused by the prescribers or the doctors that fail to do an ultrasound to diagnose an ectopic pregnancy, which is specifically warned by the abortion.
Yes, absolutely. And so as a result, have you been seeing an uptick in clients or getting calls from women across the country?
We get a few calls across the country, but women are really reluctant. Most of our bigger cases come from organizations like Silent No More. Sometimes even the Justice Foundation sends a referral or two over the years, or the pregnancy centers that are involved. They'll send post-abortive recoveries, will send us a little bit more. The women really need that one-on-one confidence that organizations like the Justice Foundation provide for them so that when they talk to me, it's not so scary.
Right. It's a big shame factor and a secrecy factor. I mean, because if most time women have abortions and they don't want anybody to know about it. So if they've been injured, certainly they don't want to go and speak to an attorney because then it's going to become public. But let's talk about the importance of them doing that, though. Because to me, if you stay silent and you've been hurt by the abortion industry, then they're going to continue hurting women, and you're not going to get the justice.
You have it exactly.
You
have it exactly right. If they stay silent, they will not get any justice. If they don't come forward within the statute of limitations, which in most cases is 2 to 3 years, depending on the state, your claims are forever barred. But there are women who've been hurt all over this country that I've represented in a variety of different ways that have received justice. We've seen families whose a daughter or wife, sister, whatever, were killed by abortion. We've sued on behalf of women whose body parts were taken by universities for research in this situation without their consent. We're suing for women based on informed consent violations. So there's a variety of different ways, and we can get justice for women who have been hurt by abortion. We also work very, very hard to keep it the way they want to keep it. So if they want this public and they want to make a public statement about their injuries, we can do that. If they want to keep it private, I have many cases that you don't see on the news that are very, very important that we keep private. So there's not that fear and there's not that anxiety when you meet with us to say, okay, this is going to be public. Everybody's going to know. We're going to try and keep it the best way possible for you. However, we do give you the option of you want to go and make this a big public spectacle. We will do that in a heartbeat.
Michael, I have a question for the listener out there that might not know what could be negligence or what could be malpractice. What actually happens that creates that would create a claim?
So the question becomes, what context that is and what state you're in. Let's take first the abortion pill. The abortion pill has specific areas that I see on a regular basis. The first is ectopic pregnancies. As I mentioned earlier, ectopic pregnancies are not diagnosed by the prescriber or the doctor of the abortion pill. And I use the prescriber because in a lot of states it's nurses or pharmacists or, even something else with regard to this. Because of that issue, they're not diagnosing the ectopic pregnancies, and the ectopic pregnancies are sometimes rupturing, which can be a life-altering event. You could spend weeks, if not months, into a hospital setting, and it may take you years to recover in this situation, and you need to recover for those injuries in this situation, as well as lost wages, lost earnings, lost future earnings, depending on how this affects you. So ectopic pregnancies are huge. The abortion pill warns the providers about that. Sure.
We pause just a minute. There may be some people that don't know what that is, and that's just when the conceived part
when the egg
attaches in the fallopian tube. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So rather than in the uterus,
that's correct. It attaches in the fallopian tube and it continues to grow, which causes the fallopian tube to rupture in this situation. So then the woman experiences unbelievable pain, as well as damage to the fallopian tubes, possibly some infertility issues. So, but it causes a significant amount of damage. And we've seen a couple of cases like that across the country.
And so
the other things that...
Go ahead. I just say, so because the mifepristone is so easy to get now, and a lot of it's done through telemed, they say, or online. You can order it online. They're not screening. Women are not being screened properly, not just for ectopic pregnancy or how far along they are in their pregnancy, but not even about their physical health conditions. I was talking about this other day. I did a telehealth appointment with a nurse, and I had to fill out tons of paperwork online about my medical history and all of the prescriptions that I was taking prior to having a meeting with them. And so, but that's not being done when they distribute and give this mifepristone, a drug, to women. So that to me is medical malpractice. Would you agree with that?
I mean, you need to look at the history. It depends on the situation. One of the things that I like to look at is we have a Joint Commission standard on health that's good for hospitals. They have to look at what is necessary for a pregnant population. The pregnant populations, they screen these medical histories quite a bit, for things like diabetes, because that could affect you, pulmonary embolisms, DVT in the legs, where you have clots in your legs in this situation that might migrate during the abortion to other parts of your bodies and cause you to either have an embolism or die. There's a variety of things that they do. So, I mean, as long as there is some type of manifest injury, yes, that may cause malpractice if they don't get the medical history, or if they don't review the medical history, which happens on a regular basis. So there's a variety of reasons that we can sue for malpractice. The other thing that I've recently penned an article for Live Action is if they don't follow the REMS, the guidelines of the abortion pill. And most doctors, when I depose them, they don't have any idea what the risk evaluation and mitigation strategies are for the abortion pill. Almost every single solitary one of them. So they're not doing that, and they're not doing that with the patient. And this forms a basis for malpractice if you are injured by the abortion pill, because the doctors didn't go and follow the REMS. And one of the things that we were looking at in that article that I just penned for Live Action earlier this month is to sue actually the abortion pill for providers that did not follow the REMS, because the abortion pill companies, Danco and GenPro, are not going out and making sure these people are following what the risk evaluation and mitigation strategies are. So that was one of my articles just recently that is going across the country right now, so that we can find new ways to sue the abortion pill. But going back a little
that's
bit,
making me think,
other areas
Michael,
for the
in
abortion
January
pill
we
that
had a
need to
trial
look
here
at.
with Planned Parenthood.
They're not doing RH
and
factor
they testified that in
testing
Illinois
prior
and
to, and
Kansas,
this
where
could
they're
cause
distributing
problems with
the
future
pills,
pregnancies.
they were doing 11
what I
weeks
would
to
call a
six-
form
11
of it.
11 weeks, 6 days. So they were already, they're testifying. They're not even adhering. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not even adhering to that, but I think you should probably do the RH factor as early as 6 weeks. So, I mean, I think that's a big factor. We're seeing sepsis. I don't know if you've seen these deaths that are associated with sepsis, but when they have these deaths associated with sepsis, they go really, really quickly. The normal sepsis takes a little longer. This is like stepping on the gas and putting extra fuel in the tank. This mifepristone causes sepsis, and these providers aren't warning against the sepsis. They're having uncontrolled bleeding. They're having pregnancies that are, misdated. ACOG loves to say that 50% of all the pregnancies that women date themselves are misdated. So they're not even doing an ultrasound to confirm the date. That's a really dangerous thing, because you're going to give birth to a baby that's possibly 21, 22 weeks in a compromised immunological state, which might hurt you in the long run. There's a variety of things. And then, boyfriends with putting abortion pills in drinks. That's another thing that we've assisted across this country, and getting either the criminal referrals or suing those boyfriends, and possibly suing the abortion pill or the prescriber for prescribing to a man. We've done that in the past. But we're also looking into severe psychological harm. I mean, emotional distress is one thing, but, the abortion, anybody who has an abortion, usually about 30% of them have the risk of suicidal ideation within the first 30 days or 90 days after they have the abortion. This is something that the industry fails to warn against, and I think we need to explore that. So if women are hospitalized by suicidal ideations, we want to know, we want to be able to sue on that behalf, because this abortion pill is pretty rough, and I'm seeing a different level of emotional distress related to this abortion pill than I did let's say 10 years ago when it was just surgical abortion. So that's just the general overview of what we do with the abortion pill. But we also do, fetal tissue research where they've donated body parts and changed procedures because of that. We do late term abortion, which is one of my favorite. I've shut down 2 late term abortionists, Curtis Boyd and Cesar Santangelo, and just everyday abortion procedures, depending on what it is. So that we really run the gambit in this situation on what we do.
And that's wonderful. And my big thing is we really need to work across the country on changing the statute of limitation, because 2 to 3 years is not long enough for a woman to be able to even get to a place mentally to sue for a botched abortion or uninformed abortion. And so that's work I think we really need to focus on as a pro-life group, is to change these statute of limitations. Because for me personally, I was just, I'd say, delivered from 40 years of depression that I would get seasonally. It would hit me every, year around the holidays, because that was the time my children should have been born that were aborted. And so that, and I knew it was related to that. I just did not know how to break through it. And I finally did this year, but it just goes to show the long-term effects that an abortion will have on a woman through psychological and emotional trauma, and depression is one of those. So I want to go back, and I was on my little high horse there for a minute, but are you seeing an increase in cases? Are you seeing an increase in calls because
Not really that much right now. I think women are still undereducated with regard to malpractice in this country and abortion. I think it's incumbent upon the pro-life movement that sometime we're going to have to educate women more about their malpractice options. And again, we do see a lot of cases, a lot of calls. We can't take a lot of them just for the same reason you just had. And let me explain, about 80% of our calls are well beyond the statute of limitations. 5, 6, 7, as well as 20 years afterwards. So we really need legislatively to extend that so people like me can sue years and years and years later, because that's very, very important. I learned that because when I first came out of school, I did the priest pedophile abuse cases for the defense side for the church. That was one of the law firms that I worked for right off the bat. But we would see victims that would come back, 5, 6, 7 years later, and they wouldn't do anything. But across this country, the legislators extended that statute of limitations that has allowed more lawsuits to come forward. We need to do the same as a pro-life community. We need to do exactly what you said. And because of these are of the sexual nature in some respects, they're more repressed, and it takes a lot more time to recognize where you have the emotional abuse from abortion in this situation.
I wanted to mention, because you talked about the Butcher of DC and how you were instrumental in shutting him down. Can you tell the listeners, because some listeners don't believe there's late-term abortion, they don't believe these things happen. Can you say the kinds of things that you encountered before these people were shut down?
Oh my goodness. I mean, one of my biggest cases is the Keisha Atkins case out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I can talk a little bit about this. I can't tell you the settlement amount for the abortionist, but I can tell you we settled for $365,000 for UNM for just referring there. And what happened in Keisha's case was she wanted a late-term abortion. She went into the University of New Mexico, was 24 weeks, 6 days pregnant, so 3rd trimester. They said, we won't do it. And rightfully so. Most hospitals won't do it at that late stage because it's at a higher risk to the woman. And unless there's not a death, but a possibility of medical damage, the universities just simply won't do it. So they refer it out to these standalone outpatient clinics in this situation. And she was referred there. She had no medical problems with the baby. There was no medical problems with her. She went in and had this late-term abortion, as many do. And when she got in, the first day they inject digoxin. She was given the Mifeprex pill, 200 milligrams about every 6 hours for 2 days. She was the baby was killed, and they put in laminaria. And each night they would send her home to go labor overnight because they didn't have 24-hour monitoring. So after the second day, she calls up and says, hey, I have a fever. It's about 102 degrees. And they said, come on in the morning. And if you know anything about sepsis, every hour you wait, there's 4% chance, less of a chance that they can help you live through sepsis. So 8 hours later, she goes into the clinic. They let her sit for 4 hours. They notice that she's getting tachycardic, which means her um, pulse has gone up above 120 in this situation. When it goes that high, they noticed a little bit of a fever. They didn't do anything about it. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she had an O2 sat of about 89. So they freaked out. They went to their emergency kit, which consisted of a couple of things of Narcan and a package of Benadryl. That didn't work because Benadryl doesn't help sepsis. So they called the ambulance. She was taken by ambulance to University of New Mexico Hospital. Upon entry into the hospital, she had a 25,000 white blood cell count, which is 2.5 times the normal amount if you're sick. She had a 3.1 lactate. And that's way elevated, which means she was in severe sepsis. She eventually was taken to the emergency room because she thought she was going to die. Her O2 sat dropped very, very low. So they rushed her in, did an emergency D&E. She died on the table right then and there. They tried to revive her for 2 hours. Why they tried to revive her for 2 hours was, they didn't want this death to come out. The abortion industry didn't need that for the late-term abortion, but she died. And then it was subsequently, they tried to cover it up at OMI. So we ended up finding that out as well. So it was an incredible case. Term abortion exists. It's real. Santangelo has done it. Curtis Wade Boyd has done it. They've just reintroduced it here in New Mexico. Alan Braid, who is from San Antonio, he has started to do late-term abortion as of last week here in New Mexico. There's a late-term abortionist in Colorado by the name of the Rise Collective. They will do it outpatient. There is one in Maryland. They will do it outpatient, and so will the one in DC. There's another one in DC that will, the DuPont Clinic, which will also do it outpatient. There are some popping up in Illinois, and they'll probably be in almost every blue state in the country at some point.
Wow.
So I just want to be sure I understand what you're saying. You said she was it 21 weeks?
24
weeks?
Almost
And
25.
they gave her Mifeprex. They gave her the first drug.
They sure did.
So they gave her the abortion pill.
Correct.
Which is it's only recommended for up to 10 weeks, correct? So over twice the recommended.
Correct, but
yeah.
Yes, and they put the abortion pill in there to see if they could speed up the process of doing a late term abortion. So I don't know all the clinics all throughout the country, but that is something that they were trying to do. They actually wrote a study about it. They were bold enough to write a study about it and then put my client's information in the study that happened and said, well, that wasn't related to the Mifeprex. Well, I mean, we ended up pursuing UCSF because they put her in that study. I can't say what happened there, but it's an interesting thing. They're really pushing the limits of Mifeprex in this country, and they're going to push it as far as they can possibly do it. And I think it's important that we rein in Mifeprex overall.
Absolutely. And that's why we want all of our listeners and viewers to understand this is a dangerous drug. It's dangerous for you. Of course, it's going to kill your baby, and it may even kill you. So we really need people to be educated on the dangers of misoprostol and how abusive the abortion industry and the FDA and even the manufacturers have become to make sure it gets out there everywhere, because they really don't care how it impacts the health of women. So, well,
they don't really care about women in general. I mean, the prescribers I've seen, they don't really care about women. They care about killing babies and vindicating women's rights. One of the basic things is when you're going through medical, when you're doing anything medical, you want to have all your rights. And you know what? The abortion industry is not telling you all your rights. They're not telling you the downsides of the situation. And we need to get that information out into the general public. I have a variety of cases all through this country that would highlight those type of things and different types of injuries and different types of informed consent violations that happen all across this country.
Amen. And the reason why the abortion industry doesn't want to give you full disclosure, doesn't want you to have all of your informed consent, is because they know women won't have abortions. If they're told about all the risks involved of having an abortion and long-term risk. So, they've always operated in secrecy and trying to cover it up while, by saying, oh, well, women know exactly what they want to do when they come into our clinic. So they don't need to have full consent. They already know what they want to do. So they're coming up with all kinds of excuses to continue their dirty work and killing babies and harming women and not being held accountable for it. And so that's why I'm so happy we have you on here.
I'm happy to hold the abortion industry accountable. It's one of my passions in life. I've come to this in the last 10 years, and I've just enjoyed suing the abortion industry like you wouldn't believe. So, we will do everything we can to do that, but it's a dangerous era right now for women, especially with the abortion pill, if they're not being adequately advised.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Do you have a question, Mary?
Well, I was just going to say, I know we're getting short on time, but I'm hoping that we could have you back on another podcast. I'd like to talk about the Ryan residency program.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I would be happy to talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, we have a couple minutes. I want you just to look at the camera and there's a woman out there who knows she's been hurt by abortion. She doesn't know what to do or where to go, and she might just need a little bit of reassurance. What would you say to her?
Well, the first thing I would say, stop and pray about this for a variety of different reasons. Number one, you need justice. You need justice for your own personal healing and safety. You didn't do all of this by yourself. The abortion industry often doesn't tell you the full picture. Please consider doing it. Second thing is you need to think about, you can stop others from having to go through this process if you would just come forward and file lawsuits against the abortion industry, the pill, anybody who is involved in the situation. That is important because you can help other women. And the third is don't be scared. There are attorneys out here who can protect you, who can protect your identity, who can file under pseudonym names in this situation. And you don't have to have this in the general public. They can protect you all the way through the entire process. Just, tell them what you want to do. Go in and talk to them. Tell them everything that's gone on, and they will help you. It's important that you do that because, you need to have the justice that you deserve. And you need to have redress for injuries that you shouldn't have had.
Thank you so much. And Mary and I agree with that. And we want to encourage you, for your sake, for your justice, and also for those other women, for other women like myself and Mary, it's been too long. We can't do anything. We can't seek justice for the injuries we received. So we want to encourage you to do that. We've got to stop the abuse of women through the predatory practices of the abortion industry. And so thank you, Michael. We look forward to having you back on to continue our discussion. Thank you, Mary. And thank you all for tuning in to More to the Story with Molly White. We will see you again next time. God bless you. Bye-bye.